Good morning everyone. I am G. Likta from CSIT and today my topic is about while loops. Is while loops. And what is a while loop in Python? In Python, the while loop statement repeatedly executes a code block while a particular condition is true. In simple words, the while loop enables the Python program to repeat a set of operations while a particular condition is true. When the condition becomes false, execution comes out of the loop immediately and the first statement after the while loop is executed. A while loop is a part of a control flow statement which helps you to understand the basics of Python. We use a while loop when the number of iteration is not known beforehand. For example, if you want to ask a user to guess your lucky number between 1 and 10, we don't know how many attempts the user may need to guess the correct number. In such cases, we use a while loop. Next, indefinite iteration. An unknown number of iterations ask the user to guess the lucky number. You don't know how many attempts the user will need to guess correctly. It can be 1, 20 or maybe indefinite. In such cases, we use a while loop. Finite iterations. Fixed number of iterations print the multiplication table of 2. In this case, you know how many iterations you need. Here, you need the particular number of iterations. In such a case, we use for loop. So, when number of iteration is not fixed, always use the while loop. There is the example for the given. Here we can write the statement 1 and statement 2. Up to statement 10, how many statements we require we can write, and it is called body of while loop. And if the condition is not true, then we can use else, and it is a else condition. And the expression that turns true or false, and the complete image shows how to write the while loop program. The given is the syntax for while loop, that is the block of statements. The while statement checks the condition. The condition must return a boolean value, either true or false. Next, if the condition evaluates to true, the while statement executes the statements present inside its block. The while statement continues checking the condition of each iteration and keeps executing its block until the condition becomes false or true. Let's see the simple example to understand the while loop in Python. Example, print numbers less than 5. In the above example, the while loop executes the body as long as the counted variable is less than 5. In each iteration, we are incrementing the counter by 1. Eventually, the counter variable will no longer be less than 5 and the while loop will stop executing. Let's see one of the examples of while loop program as shown in the slide. This is the flowchart of while loop. Why and when to use while loop in Python. Automate and repeat tasks. As we know, while loops execute blocks of code over and over again until the condition is met. It allows us to automate and repeat tasks in an efficient manner. Indefinite iteration. The while loop will run as often as necessary to complete a particular task. When the user doesn't know the number of iterations before execution, while loop is used instead of a for loop. Reduce complexity. While loop is easy to write, using the loop we don't need to write the statements again and again. Instead, we can write statements we wanted to execute again and again inside the body for the loop, thus reducing the complexity of the code. Infinite loop. If the code inside the while loop doesn't modify the variable before the loop condition, the loop will run forever. Let's see if-else in while loop. In Python, condition statements act depending on whether a given condition is true or false. You can execute different blocks of codes depending on the outcome of a condition. If-else statement always evaluates to either true or false. We use the if-else statement in the loop when conditional iteration is needed. That is, if the condition is true, then the statements inside the if block will execute, otherwise the else block will execute. Let's see one of the syntax of if-else statement. And one of the example is print even and odd numbers between 1 to the entered number. N equals to int of input, enter the number while n is greater than 0. And if n modulus of 2 equals to 0, print n is an even number, else print n is an odd number. A decrease number by 1 in each iteration. and we'll get the required output. Next, transfer statements in while loop. Loop control statements change the execution of the normal functioning of the loop. It is used when you want to exit a loop or skip a part of the loop based on the given condition. It is also known as transfer statements. There are three types of loop control statements: break, continue, and pass. Break statement. A break statement terminates the loop containing it. If the break statement is used inside a nested loop or loop inside another loop, it will terminate the innermost loop. Let us see the usage of break statement with an example. Example. Write a while loop to display each character from a string, and if a character is number, then stop the loop. Here the given the name, size equals to length of name, I equals to 0 while I is less than size, and the given code represents the required output. And a continue statement. Continue is a statement that skips a block of code in the loop for the current iteration only. It doesn't terminate the loop but continues in the next iteration, ignoring the loop's body after it. Let us see the use of continue statement with an example. Example. Write a while loop to display only alphabets from a string. In this example, we'll print only letters from a string by skipping all digits and special symbols. Here is the code and here is the required output for the continue statement. Pass statement. Pass statement is a null statement. Nothing happens when the pass statement is executed. Primarily, it is used in empty functions or classes. When the interpreter finds a pass statement in the program, it returns no operation. Let us see the usage of pass statement with an example. Here is an example, and nested while loops. In Python, while loop inside a while loop is known as a nested loop. In the nested while loop, the number of iterations will be equal to the number of iterations in the outer loop multiplied by the iterations in the inner loop. In each iteration of the outer loop, inner loop execute all its iteration while expression. Statement of inner loop, statement of outer loop. Example, use nested while loop to print pattern. Here is the example for nested loop. For loop inside a while loop. We can also use for loop inside a while loop as a nested loop. Let's see the same example using for loop inside the while loop. As given before example, we are using the example. An else statement in while loop. In Python, we can use the else block in the while loop, which will be executed when the loop terminates normally. Defining the else block with the while loop is optional. The else block will not execute in the following conditions. While loop terminates abruptly, the break statement is used to break the loop. An example, use while loop to print numbers from 1 to 5. Here is the code to print numbers from 1 to 5. And example 2, else block with break statement in a while loop. In this case, else block will not be executed. And here is the example code for that, and we'll get the correct output as required. Reverse while loop. A reverse loop means an iterating loop in the backward direction. A simple example includes display numbers from 10 to 1. Reverse a string or list. Example, reverse a while loop to display numbers from 10 to 1. Here is the required code for it, and we'll get the numbers from reverse in output. Let's see the iterate string while using while loop. By looping through the string using while loop, we can do lots of string operations. Let us see some of the examples. Example, while loop to iterate string letter by letter. Name Jessa, I equals to 0, res equals to len of name minus 1, while I is less than or equals to res, print name 1, I equals to I plus 1, and we'll get the required output as required. Let's see iterate a list using while loop. Python list is an ordered sequence of items. It is ordered by index number starting from 0. It is enclosed by square brackets. Here are some of the example of list. Numbers equals to 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. Names Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar. There are two ways to iterate through elements in it. Here are some examples to help you understand better. Example, use while loop to iterate over a list. Numbers 1, 2, 4, 5, 7. size length of numbers I equals to 0, while I is less than size, print numbers I equals to I plus 1, and again we'll get the required output. Thank you.